Ballistics, we're back again. Kristi and Katie, your crime time friends. Stories, justice, laughs collide. True Crime Squad, come join the ride. Grab the clues, let's take a stand. For victims' voices, hand in hand. True Crime Squad, it's time to shine. Season 6, your turn, your time. True Crime Squad, where justice meets hilarity.
Hey everybody, and welcome to the True Crime Squad. This is Katie Weaver. I'm here with my sister, co-host, and partner in crime, Kristi Brower. Hello.
Hello. Hey everybody. Like my
How-
way too short summer haircut?
It's fine. Yeah, I wasn't sure if you had it pulled back or if you cut it.
Oh no, it's cut.
Okay.
It's cut too much.
Oh, I don't think it's bad.
I mean, I don't mind it, but it was not what I was going for at all. It'll grow out into what I want. I didn't want it this short.
The great thing about
But
your hair is it grows so freaking fast.
it does. And that has really been kind of my solace about it, is that my hair grows really fast. You give me 2 months and it'll be to where I wanted it to be. She cut off
Definitely,
my
yeah.
curls, guys.
Yeah.
I specifically asked for them to not be cut off, and then they were. So
Uh,
but thank you, those of you who think
Yeah.
it's cute. It's not that I'd minded. I've had my hair this short and shorter before.
mhm.
It's just weird
Just
when
not
you
what
like
you asked
have an
for.
expectation, and then see,
Yeah.
I'm so nearsighted that if I have to take my glasses off for a haircut, I cannot see what she's doing. It's just a big blur. I have no, yeah. So
Yeah.
by the time I figured this out, it was way too late. But it's
Hmm.
okay. It's a cute cut. It's going to grow out back to my curly stuff like I want. So I'm going to survive.
Okay. Well, good. Well, rude. But yes, I think it
Right?
looks great.
I know it's hard.
Yeah.
But thank you.
It's been a day. And we really, this weekend,
Whew.
Scott and I are still coughing. And I went, you know what? There is no way on God's green earth I'm going to bring the consumption to Kristi's house when
Yeah.
the baby will be born any minute now. And
Right.
so we stayed away all weekend long, just cocooned.
Yes, we had 2 false alarms over the weekend. Neither of them resulted in a baby, just some contractions for a while, and then they went away. Damn it. But
Mhm.
she's scheduled for an induction on Wednesday morning. So
Yeah.
by Wednesday, this baby is happening.
Yeah. I mean, no matter what, she could go into labor
Yeah,
right
no
now.
matter
That would
what.
be fine. But I'm sure she would
Right.
love to go into labor right now. Yeah.
She was pretty done. She asked them to induce her, but they didn't have the staff and stuff.
Mhm. Kaylin
Poor
says, we
kid.
demand a
I
baby.
feel bad for her. I know. Everyone is. I
Mhm.
keep texting my son, how's it going? How's she feeling? Because we're all just like pins and needles. Just come on, baby.
Oh, yeah. That last little bit is the worst. At least
It
it's
is
not
hard,
hot,
yeah.
though. If it was really hot,
It's
that's even
true.
worse. But
Yes. Yeah, it's not. And, we know either way, she's within 2 days, she's coming. So that's
yeah,
exciting.
it's super exciting. Well, I have been busting out glass. I had another really good kiln opening, and it's all going to go tomorrow. What I'm trying to do is do a monthly drop. I think it will help me just be more
Mm.
organized and have something to work towards rather than just this haphazard stuff I do now, which might still be exactly what I do, but we'll see. But at any rate, so
Sure.
I want to do a drop on the 15th. So tomorrow I'll have a drop over on
Exciting.
Etsy of a bunch of new glass as well as a couple of other things. So yeah, I'm super excited. So I'll share that with you guys tomorrow. But of course, my Etsy, you can find it. It's over on uh, Etsy. It's Joyful Goddess Designs, or you can go to truecrimesquad.com and find it there from our Patreon or from our list
Our
of links
website.
there. So
Yeah. Oh, speaking of which, we have the wrong banner up. I'll
we have the
figure
wrong
it out.
banner up. Yeah.
Our brains are a little fried. I'm sure yours are too.
Oh, Christine, the
Especially
little
if you
B
were watching
cups.
the trial.
The little B cups are turning out so cute, and they should be. They're a part of this drop. Yeah, they are
I
darling.
love them. If you
Me
need
too.
something for me for Mother's Day, I would love one of those. I don't
kind of
have
thought
a B
about
cup.
that. You need
I
a
don't
B
have
cup.
one, and I love the idea of having a little water out for the bees all the time. I just think that's really
Yeah.
cool.
Oh, Poco said I was on jury duty the day my first grandchild was being born. A kind
Oh my
female judge
gosh.
dismissed me and I made it for her birth. Oh,
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 that's
that's
very
so
sweet.
sweet. Yeah.
'Cause,
Well, it
yeah,
was
who
an
wants to miss
interesting
that?
day, right? For jury duty, of all things. It was an
Right?
interesting day. Detectives Hermosillo and Officer Wheeler from the Rexburg PD were at court today. And from people in the courtroom, sounds like Lori did a double take when she saw Hermosillo sitting there and turned around and
I
looked at him
bet.
several more times.
I bet she was like, wait a minute, they're not testifying. They're not testifying, but the fact that they're
No,
there, I love it.
I'll bet you
Turn the
they're there.
screws.
Yes, I'll bet they were there to be deposed for the next hearing or the next trial,
I bet they were. Yeah, because they will be for the next trial.
and probably thought,
Yeah,
hey,
that's a good point. We'll just slip
yeah,
on in,
we'll just slip on
see
in.
how this shit show's going. And it's a shit show,
hmm
straight up.
That just cracked me up because Lori hates him. You know, he's like 3.4 dark. So,
Right, right.
you
He's
know, she was super unhappy about
super
him
duper
being in the
bad.
courtroom. Which leads me to my next question. Are we really going to get to see Lori cross Detective Hermosillo?
Oh my God, I think we
Please,
are.
God, say it's
Oh,
true.
yeah. Something I would legit pay money for.
hmm And yes, she had her extra baby voice on today. Holy cow.
Boy, didn't she?
The first word
Gross.
uttered out of her mouth to the ME was absolute baby talk. I was like,
Yeah.
oh boy, here we go.
Yeah, she was quite on one today.
And he wasn't really flappable to, the baby voice or anything else
No,
at
he was
all.
not. He was honestly a very dry witness. I was
Yes,
like,
he
come
was.
on, dude.
He obviously is way more comfy in the lab than he is on the stand. Brilliant guy.
Yeah,
Brilliant
yeah,
guy.
very
But
brilliant. But yeah, Rhonda said, I think he's really nervous.
he
Yeah,
seemed
he
to
might
be,
be.
yeah. And
Yeah,
not in his comfortable element. Yeah.
yeah.
Yep.
Oh, Hermosillo was interviewed by Fox 10, and Ray said that he was there to support Colby and Kay.
Oh, good for him.
That's very
That's
sweet.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Oh my
Colby was there
goodness, Rocky,
today.
thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Yeah, the super chat is on. Well, let's get into it because there's plenty to say about today. It was
Mm-hmm.
mostly kind of a dry day, but we had some moments.
Oh,
Uh,
we did have some moments.
Nonchalant entered the chat quite a few times.
I love how it's like voluminous that once one person says it, then everyone is saying it, and it just keeps happening. And they all said it today, which was really great.
And that Lori doesn't like that term. She's always asking what does
What does
nonchalant
that
mean
mean?
to you? Yeah.
It means
Means
not
you.
grieving the death of your husband. That's what it means. Jesus.
Exactly. Yes. Susan Bin was there today. She's the sketch artist that attended Lori's Idaho trial and did put out some work earlier today.
I'm really hoping she sketches Lori. I want to see it real bad.
There was kind of a mini sketch of Lori today that I saw.
Was there? I haven't seen it.
Yeah, I didn't see very much, but I know there was a little. Yeah. We started late because a juror was late. That is insane to me. Lori's paralegal was late as well.
Yeah.
Please, people,
Come on.
let's go.
We only have 2 alternates. We can't screw
hmm
this up.
So they met without the jury first, talking about some issues. There was a subpoena served on Bobby Vallow. Bobby Vallow is Charles Vallow's younger brother, Kay and Charles' younger brother. And then as it turned out later in the day, and I don't know how in the hell this can possibly happen, but supposedly that was an error. And he wasn't supposed to be subpoenaed. Also, the subpoena was for a
It
date
was
that
an
has already
accident, guys.
passed. It was an accidental subpoena, as you do.
How the hell do you subpoena someone accidentally?
I can't fathom that.
Let's just get real. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, Teresa asked if Lori opens the Idaho door, is it a mistrial? No,
Mm-mm.
it is not. If the prosecutor does, yes. If Lori does, no.
Mm-mm.
Boy,
But the
she
problem
is
Lori's
right
going to
on the
have,
edge.
right, and that's the problem she's going to have is she has already been told that she cannot use Tylee's testimony, right? Tylee's testimony is not in, and that's what she kept trying to hinge on today. And we'll get there a
Yeah.
little later, but she just kept pushing that way. But, right, I don't know if she understands that if she just goes ahead and kicks that whole door open, she's going to get more than she bargained for. And
Yeah.
the state is trying to stop her. She objected about 1,000,000 times this afternoon over that. But
Because she kept trying. Well, she kept trying to bring in hearsay from Tylee. That makes me so goddamn mad.
mhm,
You do not get to use her words. You murdered her, you bitch.
the more she talked
God.
about Tylee today, the madder I was getting. I'm like, this
Oh,
is
yeah.
just, it's so
Don't even
disgusting.
say her name, you ignorant.
Mhm.
Oh,
So, a couple of other things. There's a motion in limine about the police. This is about what they can ask the police about why they weren't charged in the first place, whether she can or can't, or
yeah.
what they're allowed to say. There's another motion from the state to preclude the defendant's witnesses, and another motion to exclude a video observed by Janice Cox and Summer Shiflett. We know now that some of her witnesses are Tylee's friends.
What?
Mm-hmm.
Are you kidding me? Oh my God.
Mm-hmm.
She
Yeah.
needs slapped for that.
Mm-hmm.
She thinks she's going to get to question Tylee's friends who know she killed her. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah. Here's who are still on the witness list for Lori. Herself, Veja Irahua, Gabriel Bonilla, Joseph Pongrantz, Ashlyn Rind, Barry Cox, Zachary Cox, Adam Cox, Janice Cox, Summer Shiflett, and then, of course, Brandon Boudreau, who was struck. So the state's arguing some of those witnesses that, for various reasons, but that's happening. And we got through, I believe, we're in the middle of right now, witness 14 for the state. The state says they have 21 witnesses.
16.
Oh, 16, that's right. 16, the state has 21. They're saying that they expect that they will likely be able to rest on Thursday. We said in the beginning we thought this would go a whole lot faster than was immediately prescribed, and I think that's becoming very evident, especially because Lori's expert witness did not get in, and she keeps operating as if he did, and the judge keeps kind of going, not sure why this is very relevant because it's too late. But maybe for the next trial. He said that today. Maybe for the next trial.
He did. I don't know why he's just not shutting these arguments down completely. Like, look, dude, he's not getting in. This is all way too late. Poor Lonnie Dworkin. He probably rused the day he met this idiot.
Oh, I'm sure.
Imagine.
We'll get there. Towards the end of the day, there was a whole conversation.
Yeah.
Yes. All right. So, let's get into it. Then they worked a little on the Brandon Boudreau scheduling. So the remote questionnaires will go out the week of May 19th. Then, of course, they'll start bringing in jurors for voir dire on May 30th and hopefully start with opening statements on Monday, June 2nd. So that's going to come up pretty quick. But I think I suspect we're going to have about a 3 or 4 week break in between those. Mm-hmm. It looks to me like we will.
Well, yeah, I think trial date's June 2nd is the start date.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
yeah,
Leanna,
it is June 2nd.
June 2nd, she starts trial for the attempted murder of Brandon Boudreau. Mm-hmm. She is yet again representing herself in that mess. So,
the belligerent turd circus marches on. And on really and on. Yep.
And it's just pretty much a one-woman show now.
Yeah. Well, my goodness, her investigator, I don't know. She got the JV squad. Yeah.
She did get the JV squad. Agreed.
Yep. So first on the stand today is Dr. Derek Baumgartner from the ME, which we were very excited to hear from the ME. We heard pretty much what we've already heard. About the shooting, the gunshots, the bullet holes, the path of them. It's no different than what we've already learned, essentially, except for that he was the right person to answer these questions. So they did have some autopsy photos that were not shown to the stream, which is great. And
thank you. No one needs to see them.
Yep. We know that Charles was just under 6 feet tall and weighed a little over 200 pounds. We know he had no injuries on the front of his face and no abrasions or contusions on the back of his head. Uh, they, of course, saw photos in the courtroom of the bullet wounds and things like that, which again we did not see. But he had some injuries on his hands and on his knees. He was wearing a watch the day he was shot. The watch didn't seem to be injured. Uh, he says that the injuries on his knees were perimortem. He figured caused at the time of his death. So as if the first shot, maybe he went down onto his knees.
Maybe. Or maybe there was a physical fight between the two of them first. I mean, we don't know what really happened.
We don't know. Yeah.
This bitch does nothing but lie. Maybe there was a physical altercation where, they grappled a bit or something.
The injuries on his hands would indicate that, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I thought too, that maybe this is some defensive.
There was abrasions around the chest wound, the bullet hole, and the ME said the projectile was coming in at an angle and kind of scraped away the skin as it entered. He talked about there being stippling, which is when gunpowder strikes the skin after the bullet enters. There have been fights about whether there was stippling or there wasn't stippling. He says, yes, there was. I'm not even sure why there's a fight about stippling, to be honest.
But he doesn't use that word. He said he uses abrasion. He doesn't use stippling. Because, there was that whole stippling thing with Lori and the gun expert. And he's like, I don't really use that word.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Part of that, the closer the gun muzzle is to the person, that increases the amount of stippling or abrasion that you would observe. And that was, I think, part of the prosecution's point, is that this was these were up close.
Yeah.
Then they see the exit wound, one of them. He said it has all of the characteristics of an exit wound. They talk about the wound path of the gunshot. He says it passed through the skin, sternum, pericardius, that's the sac around the heart, hit 2 chambers of the heart, and then passed through the soft tissue of the skin on the left back before exiting. He said the wound was not immediately fatal. He said Charles could have lived for a short period of time, seconds to a very few minutes. So not a lot of time, but a little time.
Yeah. Thank you for the super sticker, my 2 cents. Appreciate that.
Baumgartner said that Charles could have moved and reached up to touch where he was shot with his left hand immediately following the shooting. That he may have done that. Given the abrasions on his knees, he says it's possible that he fell onto his knees as he was shot or after he was shot.
Mm-hmm.
Then they show a close-up. There's a rod in place that shows where the bullet hit, that shows the trajectory.
Yeah.
Which I'm sure that was helpful for the jury, because what they're trying to illustrate, of course, is that the second shot came from above while he was on the ground. And so I'm glad. I was hoping they'd have better diagrams and things, so I'm hoping that really helped the jury to see what that looked like.
Yeah. Oh, and welcome. If you don't usually make it live and you're here for the first time or recently, welcome. We're really happy to have you all here.
Yeah. Then they talk about the second shot. This was the one that came in low, after he was on the ground. They see some shots of that wound. There's no stippling or soot from this one. It was not as close a range, of course, as the first shot was. So he says that it means the muzzle of the gun was likely 4 to 5 feet at least away from the victim. We also know there was no projectile recovered from this bullet, and that the exit wound was on the left back of the shoulder. Of course, we're all on, waiting with bated breath to find out if it's possible that, all of that got messed up in some way by a $200 bamboo shirt. So if you're wondering about it, don't worry. We are going to learn more about this today.
I figured there would be no way of getting around that with this witness.
Mm-hmm. He said the exit wound appeared atypical because it was shored. He said that occurs when the body is pressed against a firm surface when the bullet is exiting the skin. If a person is lying on the floor and is shot, would you expect to be a shored wound? Asks the state, and he says yes. He said they're relatively rare. He's probably seen less than 50 in his career, but this is a textbook-worthy example of being a shored exit wound. And I'm going to trust you, Baumgartner, because I would imagine that you have the textbook memorized.
He does appear to be that kind of guy. Yeah.
Definitely, yes. Yeah, don't play
I think
Trivial
likes
Pursuit.
working with dead people a lot better than live people.
Yeah. Don't play Trivial Pursuit with him. You will lose.
Agreed, yeah.
Yeah. So again, they keep going over, and they go over a lot, really over and over and over the trajectory. And she says, given the trajectory that you observed from the gunshot wound to Charles's abdomen, would that be consistent with the shooter standing somewhere near Mr. Vallow's feet and firing at Charles Vallow as he was laying on the floor? He says, yes, that's certainly possible. They talked about the defect in the floor where he was shot. He said that would support the fact that he was shot on the ground. No drugs or alcohol were found in Charles' system. The cause of death was multiple gunshot wounds. And that was it. So then Lori comes up on cross, hits him up about doing a toxicology. He says, yeah, they test for 16 to 20 substances. She asks if that include regular medications, like for high blood pressure or testosterone. He says, no, that would not show up in toxicology. So she says if they asked for additional tests for drugs, would he do that? If law enforcement did, and he said it's possible depending on what they're asking for, but it's atypical. But they did the basic things that they do. She said something along the lines of, it sounded like she was trying to introduce an idea that maybe he had steroids in his system. She made a comment, and I thought, my God, are we going to try and go on roid rage here? Is that what this is? Is that the defense? Right. But she kind of left it after that. She hammered him for a minute about toxicology, and then she moved on from it. Per the way Lori questions, you are always going to be left wondering why she asked that question.
Right.
And
there's never any, like, you can see the path she's taking. No, there is no path.
No.
It's just a big old zigzag.
A lot of hanging chads out there. Like, you don't know
why.
Yes,
yeah.
But she doesn't really wrap anything up. And that was a lot the same. She asked about the abrasions.
That's awesome.
She asked about the abrasions on his knees and if they could have been caused by a scuffle before he was shot. Baumgartner said it's possible. She asked about the abrasions on his hands and if that could have been from a scuffle beforehand. He also said that is possible. She asked if Charles could have been falling when he was shot the second time and then hit the floor. He says no. He said a shored wound would not have been caused if he was falling as he was shot. And then the question of the hour, ladies and gentlemen, is he familiar with bamboo clothing? He is not. She asked if tight clothes could have caused the shored wound. He said usually a bra or a belt could maybe cause that, but he wasn't familiar with the idea of bamboo clothing doing that. So now the state comes back. So she's done. The state comes back up for redirect. And I'm sure that Prosecutor Kay is really hates to have to do this, but has to actually utter the word
right.
Bamboo clothing.
Yeah. I'm sure she's like, God damn it. I don't have to do this again.
This bitch is making me talk about this again.
Yeah.
So she asks about bamboo clothing and if it caused a shored wound at one spot, wouldn't it cause it on the second wound too? Baumgartner says he would expect that, but there was only one shored wound, so the other exit wound was not. Ooh, ouch, Lori.
That's a super good point, actually.
Mm-hmm.
That, yeah, you can't, it's not, yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
It happened once, why didn't it happen twice? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's also just the stupidest line of questioning ever, but it's okay. So she also asks the ME if there was anything about Charles's death that could have been anything other than gunshot wounds, and he said no, absolutely not. And that was it. There was a juror question. Our healthcare juror chimed in again. That's my assumption. The question was there significant amounts of blood in the left lung? The ME says not the left lung, but the chest cavity. They said, does that suggest the heart was still beating during the second shot? The ME said the heart could have been beating, but it's also possible that the blood spilled into the left cavity from the heart. They wanted to know if there was blood in the throat or mouth. There was not. No other questions. To
So
me,
he didn't live long enough to cough it up.
he did not. Also, and maybe I'm just projecting here, but I would assume that if CPR had been performed, there might have been some blood in the throat and mouth.
Right?
I wondered if that's what they were looking for when they asked that question.
I
I hope that this is a healthcare professional that can help other people on the jury understand some things if they need some help with what they're saying here about the pathway and also the fact that there was absolutely no CPR performed.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yes, the prosecutor was fantastic today. She was really good. She made some super good points. She had some really important things to say. So next we get Mark Sari from the Office of the Inspector General. So Sari testified in the Idaho case. He is investigating, his job is to investigate crime of abuse and fraud for Social Security. So she's asking, the state is, what happens to survivor benefits when a child becomes an adult? If they're receiving them for a deceased parent, he said they would cease. Remember that Tylee was receiving money. She was receiving, it sounds like, about $1,800 a month from Joe Ryan from his passing.
That was probably for her and her mother.
I would assume so. Here's what they said. Well, yes, they said that when a child has a parent who passes away, the mother could get benefits. If the mother is married to the father at the time of death, she will receive a mother-child care benefit, the same dollar amount for the child and for herself. If the parent is not married at the time the other parent dies, there is no payout. If the parent remarries, the benefits cease. The child would still get the benefits. So he says Tylee was receiving $1,859 per month.
And so she was just getting the full benefit then.
Mm-hmm.
That was one thing I wondered about.
Lori was the representative payee, however, for Tylee, of course. So the state asked Sari if he's aware that Lori went to an appointment with Social Security related to JJ on August 12th, 2019. So during the meeting, she had to answer some questions about her relationship with Charles. She had to provide the date that she and Charles were married, which was February 24th, 2006. In that meeting, she was asked if they were living together at the time of her death, and she said that they were. Unfortunately, however, that was not true, and she lied to Social Security. I know Lori and the Truth are not tight friends.
Yeah, they were separated.
And for normal, Lori would say whatever she wanted to get whatever she wanted. This is just the way it is. Right. He knows that she got a letter sent to her regarding survivor benefits. That comes into evidence. It says, essentially, the letter shows that JJ was entitled to monthly benefits beginning in July 2019. He was also receiving $1,951 per month, plus back pay of about $4,000 to the date that Charles died. Lori also got a letter saying she was going to get Social Security for $1,951 per month, plus back pay of about $4,100. So in total, she and JJ were going to be getting about $4,000 a month in benefits.
Yeah.
Which we know from the Idaho cases. So total, with Tylee's money, Lori was receiving around around $5,800 a month in Social Security.
Yeah.
She asks Sorry if he learned that Lori eventually got married. He says yes, that she married Chad Daybell on November 15th, 2019. I'm kind of surprised that made it in. This witness, I'm going to be honest, surprised me because they did move forward. And I didn't know they could or would. But yes, so the marriage to Chad Daybell made it on the record today.
Well, I think it already had.
Had it?
I think that had already, yeah. It's just the stuff about the kids they're really careful about. But they've talked about Chad Daybell before.
Mm-hmm. Well, they've talked about her having an affair and stuff, but that just felt a lot more official today to bring up their marriage date.
To know that they were married. True.
So then Lori on cross asks if a surviving spouse can get benefits if they don't have any children. He says he believes so. You know, he's in the fraud department. He's not in the enforcement. In the benefits department. So he doesn't know everything. But she says if you've been married for longer than 10 years, you get benefits. He said there's some rules for that, but yes, he believes that's true. So then she brings up all of these different scenarios. She said, if there were two spouses to a deceased husband consecutively, and they were both each married for over 10 years to the same husband, could they both apply and receive spousal benefit? Sorry says he isn't aware of that policy regarding that issue. Lori says it was explained to her that she could receive it. Prosecutor Kay is like, yeah, she's testifying again. Yeah, she did a lot of that today, and the judge sustains that.
Well, and also, what does it have to do with anything? And also, no, you can't. It goes to the most recent spouse.
Mm-hmm. So they just do a bunch of back and forth. Lori basically saying, kind of trying to act like she received bad information at her appointment, and that's why she filed the way she did. And that's kind of what happened. I felt like this was kind of a fairly pointless witness, to be honest, but maybe I'm wrong. She asked if there was a spousal support form she applied for and insinuates that the employee could have made a mistake in putting the information in the computer. Sorry says Lori was present at the Social Security office to go through line by line the application. She said, so if I thought, and then corrects herself to say, if a person thought, like she's trying to not get in trouble for testifying.
Ooh, this was real sneaky.
Mm-hmm. She asks if Sorry has seen all of her applications. He says he has received any and all documentations in regard to her and to JJ. She asks how the money is supposed to be spent. And then she says, again, testifying, food, clothes, etc. He says it can also be saved for the survivor. Lori says the benefit is supposed to be spent every month and not saved up. Sorry says that's not correct. It's for college. Lori's insinuating the employee told her that it could not be saved for college. The prosecutor objects, says Lori's testifying, and the judge sustains.
There's lots of different kinds of Social Security. And if you're on SSI, if you were diagnosed with a disability before the age of 18, and you're on SSI, yeah, you can't save it up. But death benefits, totally different ballgame.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, it can be saved for college. And it also can be used for shelter and food.
So she has to take a minute to confer with her counsel. When she comes back, she asks Sorry if he was present during the interview with her and the employee. He was not. She wants to know if he knows what was said. He does not. He says he saw her applications when he began his investigation in January 2020. So, 6 months down the road. She asks Sorry who his supervisor is. He says he has a special agent in charge who's his immediate boss. She asked who assigned her case to him. Again, a lot of nonsense questions. The state objects on relevance. They let him answer, so he says special agent in charge Joe Rogers assigned the case to him. Again, there's a lot of questions she asked that just there's no point to. But anyway, the state comes up on redirect and wants to know what the point of meeting at Social Security is. And he says the purpose is for an applicant to come and meet with someone to determine whether they're eligible for benefits. They talk about the letters that were sent to Lori explaining the benefits that she'd be getting. The state wants to know if does Social Security just start deciding for people what benefits they might want? Sorry, it says no, not at all. It's based on what they apply for, basically what they testified to, right? When you go to Social Security and you tell them something, you're bound to that. That's legally binding to give information to Social Security.
Right.
But I will say I felt like all of this was very confusing and might not have been super helpful to the jury.
Right. Because all of this talk about things that were pointless, except I love the part where she asked him if he'd have any way of knowing if she went to the Social Security office in Hawaii.
Yeah.
Listen, you dumb bitch. Social Security is a federal agency.
Right.
They will know everything you did. Okay? Doesn't matter which office you went in. It's all the same database.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
She's like, well, maybe you just didn't know because I went in Hawaii. No, honey. Jesus. Drove me nuts.
So the juror question I thought was pretty interesting. You can see that the jurors' heads are spinning. Their wheels are spinning, right? They're putting some things together. The juror asked if payments to Lori Vallow were stopped after his investigation. He says they were. They asked during his investigation, was Social Security notified by Lori Vallow of her new marriage? He says they were not. The judge asked the defendants if she has any follow-up. She does, unfortunately. So she comes back up, and this is when she starts asking about Hawaii. Again, she testifies. She says, were any changes made, she asks if any changes were made on her behalf after August 2019. And he says there were none made. So then the state comes back and asks,
yeah, that you know of. And he's like, no, there were no changes made.
Yeah.
He'd had enough of that shit.
That is not how this works. And so the state comes back on redirect again and asks again, is this all computerized? Yes. Okay. Bye-bye. So then we have Robin Smith Scott. So Robin is the custodian of records for Banner Life Insurance. Mm-hmm. So she works in the claims department, and we have heard from her previously about their payout policies, because yet again, we're back to the reason Lori kills. Mm-hmm. So they talk about how you get life insurance, how that works, essentially what life insurance is and what it's for. The state asks when someone passes away, who decides who will be paid out? And of course, Scott says the policy is reviewed and they look at the documents and they decide who has been listed as the primary beneficiary. That's essentially how it works, right? So she said it's their job to make sure they have the most recent beneficiary on file and that they keep copies of all changes made to policies, of course. Also, any changes made to policies over 500,000 have to be notarized. So for Charles to change that policy from Lori to Kay, he would have had to notarize that. But remember that Charles was literally a life insurance salesman. So he knew, exactly what to do and how to do it correctly. And it's no wonder this happened in the way it did, just knowing that Charles knew what he was doing. This stuff might be confusing for someone else, but he knew what to do and how to do it without Lori, being any the wiser, because she didn't have to be notified. So when people call, they record all of their calls. So
thank God.
Mm-hmm. We know that in February, he called Banner and requested a beneficiary change form that was emailed to him and sent back notarized. We know that that's when Kay became the primary beneficiary. So that was clear back in February. For some reason, I had it in my head that was somewhere in like April, May, but it was sooner than that. So they admit an affidavit that authenticates the beneficiary change. Then they go to lunch. When they come back, the judge says that during the sidebar, some of it was not captured by the court reporter. So they have to repeat some of the questions. They were having some tech issues with the whole headset sidebar situation today. That is not working out very well. There's been multiple problems, but at any rate, one of the questions that was not asked is if someone lied on their application, would they need to pay it back? So the state and the defense both object to having that question asked, and this was a juror question. And Lori also objected to the question about Lori contacting Social Security, but the judge did allow that question in. You didn't want him to know you're a big lying liar from Liarsville? I don't know.
Right?
Okay.
Right. So I have the phone calls.
Awesome.
So let's listen to them.
Yeah.
Oh, wait. Are you ready for that?
Well, no, we're not quite there yet.
Oh, never mind.
But I'm glad you have it. I'm ready. I'm not ready, but we'll get there. When they come back from lunch, there is a motions hearing. So the motions hearing is about whether Lori wants to cross-examine police officers as to why she and Alex weren't arrested immediately. So he asks Lori if she's going to ask those questions, and of course she gets cagey because it's like Lori still thinks she's keeping some hot secrets, but she's not. It's not really how this works. But so she gets all cagey. Well, not in those specific terms. So the judge says, "All right, what does that mean?" And she says the timing wouldn't be relevant to the trial. I'm not sure what that means, but okay.
She just makes shit up.
The judge says there's a lot of reasons why the investigation took a while, and the jury doesn't need to know that. He said, I don't think it's relevant. If you think it's relevant and you think you have a question regarding timing or who was or wasn't arrested, ask if we can take a break and we'll talk about it. So she says, okay.
I mean, honestly, all that's going to do is bring in the conspiracy.
Right.
The Idaho conspiracy. Because then it's going to be, well, we didn't realize what this was happening until until your kids went missing. And we started investigating all that. And then we found that Tammy Daybell was murdered. And, it would bring everything in. I can't imagine how it would help her.
Right. So then they talk about the Bobby Vallow subpoena and why it was,
Whoops.
a mistake.
I'm sorry. I just subpoenaed someone.
Uh-huh.
I don't know. I accidentally subpoena people all the time.
It's a simple thing to do. Yeah.
Apparently it is.
She said, it's very difficult on the jail when they cut me off after 20 minutes. I'm guessing that's on the jail call.
Sucks to be a triple murderer.
Guess so. He officially quashed Brandon Boudreaux's subpoena as well. And then they talk about this motion in limine regarding a video viewed by Janice Cox and Summer Shiflett. I'm still unsure what that is. Lori said she hasn't had a chance to talk to her advisory council about it, and the judge says that's okay. We'll worry about it later. So,
is that the video that she kept trying to get from the prosecution, from
I wondered.
That was the mashup video of a bunch of different interviews that she still thinks is out there on the internet, and they're keeping it from her because she doesn't understand video editing. That's what I wondered.
I wondered too. I'm very confused about that. What
if they've seen it, so she wants them to come in and testify to what it was said or something, which would never fly in a million years.
I have no idea. Yeah. So then Ms. Scott is back on the stand, and now we have the jury back in the courtroom. And so now, of course, we're ready let's go ahead and listen to the phone call.
Yeah. So there's two. There's the initial phone call that she makes. It's really interesting because she's not picking up what this woman is putting down.
No.
Until she gets the email. And then she has to call her back because guess what the email says? Guess who you're not. But anyway, it's pretty funny, I think.
And what was the date of Mr. Vallow's passing? July 11th. And what was the cause of his passing? Well, he was shot. Okay, so so I don't know how I want to put that.
Okay. All right. And I hate to ask, but is it?
Yeah,
you can just say yes or no. Was it a homicide?
No, it was an accident.
An accident. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And what state did he pass away in?
Arizona.
Okay. Just bear with me for one moment. I just need to pull up a few other things.
Okay.
Can we just pause for a moment of hilarity when she hadn't really thought about that they're going to ask her how Charles died? And she had no idea how to answer that question. That
The
was
way she
damn
was,
telling.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I know. That shocked me too, because Lori usually has an answer for everything. She was not prepared to answer that question.
She was not. Yeah. That was pretty great.
Yeah.
Are you aware of who the primary beneficiary of the policy is?
It's me.
No, bitch.
Okay. And may I have your, I'm sorry, one moment. My computer just went away for a second. Okay. And may I have your current mailing address?
Sure, it's 55.
Yeah, when she said it's her, that she's the beneficiary, someone sneezed loudly in the courtroom.
Okay, ma'am. That is all the information I need to open the claim. What we will do now is review the policy and the file to confirm the beneficiary information and determine the claim requirements that we will need to settle this particular claim. Once we have completed our review, we will prepare a claim packet to send to the named beneficiary once that has been confirmed. And the claim packet can either be mailed or emailed or faxed. How would you like to receive a correspondence?
Email would be great.
Okay, and what is your email address?
It's Lori, Lori.
Okay. All right, so you should receive an email from our office within the next 3 to 5 business days or sooner. It will have the instructions listed. Once you receive the information, if you have any questions whatsoever, please don't hesitate to give our office a call, and then we can go from there. Okay, is there anything I can help you with at this time?
That's it, I think.
Okay, ma'am. Well, I'm very sorry for your loss. You take care of yourself.
Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Claims Department, this is Robin. May I have the policy number?
Sure.
Poor Robin. She's done with this.
Okay, I do have the policy pulled up. Who am I speaking with?
This is Lori Vallow. I'm returning your call.
Yeah.
I missed you.
Okay, no problem. Let me just get all of this information up. Okay, so in your voicemail, you stated that you had something that stated you are the beneficiary of the policy?
Right. So I have the original policy where I was the beneficiary, the sole beneficiary, and then we changed the policy to where I was 80%, and we added 2 people, the Porches, who invested in our company for each 10%. And that's the last one I have. That's the last update that I have. So can you tell me when that was changed again? I mean, I know my husband is the agent on record, so he can change it. He's the owner.
Okay, I don't see anything regarding the second change that you said. I don't, with those percentages, I don't see anything at all with you as 80% at any time.
Okay, so maybe that's something he just told him he was going to do. That's just a handwritten copy I have that I found. So.
Okay, so I
I'm sure you do.
I mean, I
Yeah.
really can't give too much information, but I can tell you that the beneficiary was changed in March of this year.
Okay. Okay, I'm trying to figure out what he was doing since we have 5 kids and we've been married for 15 years.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So I know he owes a lot of people money, and I was worried if I got money, they'd be coming after me for money.
Right. No, I understand that.
But now I will be with none. So, but did he change it to one person, or was it several people?
Unfortunately, I can't release that. I'm sorry.
Okay. No, I know you can't tell. We're in the business. My husband is the agent. He's the agent.
Okay.
So,
got it. Okay.
We deal with this business all the time, so I kind of know how it works, but I'm completely surprised.
Right.
We have our 7-year-old with autism that we adopted together, so I'm surprised that he would do that without telling me.
I'm so sorry.
So, I mean, there's nothing you can do about that, even though it's community coverage, and it's his policy.
No, this is a contract that we have with the insured, exactly. So he's able to make any changes, during the lifetime of the policy.
Well, can I check? I mean, I have a policy, a $2 million policy on me, and since he's the agent, would he have been able to change the beneficiary on my policy?
Not if he was the agent. He would have had to own the policy, but I can certainly check.
But if he would have signed my name, could he have done that? I wonder.
I mean, I don't, I would hope that wouldn't happen, but let me just pull up. Okay, let me just take a look and see what I can find on you.
Just under Lori Vallow, it would be under Lori and Vallow. We have a $2 million policy on me, but I'm not even sure it's with Center Life.
I'm not showing that it's with us.
It might be Life of the Southwest. We work with several companies.
Right.
But I could call them and I'm just asking the question, like, I could call them and ask them and make sure the beneficiary is who I say. I mean,
I would. If you have a concern of that nature, I certainly would call and check on your own policies if you, have concern if something may have happened.
Well, and I would have to change it anyway because he was the beneficiary as far as I know on my policy.
Right. So you would definitely want to update that at this point. And,
what happens, like if something happened to me, say today, and it's under him and he's deceased, what happens to that policy?
Well, if there's not every contract's different, but more than likely, if there was not a contingent beneficiary named, it would go to your estate.
To their estate.
Yeah.
Okay.
But if there's, if there's a contingent beneficiary named, then it would go to that person.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. Well, thank you. I just needed that information.
Okay. No, not a problem. All right. You take care.
Okay.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
For someone who works in the industry all the time, she sure knows nothing at all.
Not a damn thing. And raising 5 children. She never raised his sons.
No.
And she only has 2 children. Oh, God, she's such a dramatic little shit.
It goes on and on. But it's an interesting thing, Lori. Charles had a $2 million life insurance policy on you, and he never even killed you so that he could access it.
Not even once.
Yeah.
I know. She's really obsessed with that $2 million insurance policy. It's come up so many times.
So many times. And right, you guys, that our chatters are saying maybe she never had one. Maybe that's all bullshit.
Right.
But the way she was trying to plant doubt, she had some handwritten thing that was 80% her and 10% to their partners. And this lady's like, no, you didn't. Yeah, no.
Somebody might have wrote that on a piece of paper, but that doesn't make it the policy. Yeah.
And who wrote that on a piece of paper, Lori? Lori, that's who.
Lori probably did, yeah.
If anyone.
Well, and I think she's just gagged that she won't tell her who the beneficiary was changed to.
For sure. And, this lady is lovely. She is just more than sweet,
Oh, yeah. Super helpful and kind. And wishes her the best and condolences and shit. And you're like, no, she does not deserve any of that. None.
Mm-hmm. Now, this question from the state really cracked me up. She said, she asked Ms. Scott if Lori understood how the process works, and she said she feels like Lori didn't really understand uh, or really know anything about it. Yeah, no, indeed.
Yeah, no, not at all.
And that was it. So Lori had no questions for her. And of course, then she did verify that the payout went to Kay Woodcock, and that was it. So then we have Jeff Moberg of the Department of Public Safety. So he was really good. He's a forensic scientist.
So
Yeah, in the firearms and tool unit. He's worked for DPS since 2013 and worked in the firearms unit since 2018. He was very well spoken. You know, when people get on the witness stand, when the first thing they do is turn and look at the jury and say, "Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is," you're like, "Oh yeah, you're going to be great."
you know
Versus
why you're here.
ones who are like, "Oh dear God, am I going to have to make eye contact? Oh no."
Yeah.
And
to talk directly to the jury makes so much sense because that's who they're there to talk to.
Yes. The ones that are well trained in speaking to the jury they're my favorite. And he was really good. Really super good. So he's here to talk to us about the gun. So he talks about his experience and his education and whatnot. Then the state asks him how a semi-automatic gun works. He says it's designed to fire one round with a single pull of the trigger, but also cycles the firearm, meaning it pulls the slide back and allows it to go forward through the chamber and it's ready to fire. He gave really good explanations. I thought for people who don't understand anything about guns, I thought he did a good job of explaining things that people might not know, that maybe they would need to know. Yeah. So she shows a photo of a semi-automatic handgun and a live round or a cartridge that was in Alex's bag. So she asks what happens to the rest of a live round after a bullet is fired. And he explains that the expelled cartridge is ejected so that a new one can be loaded. She asks when a person fires a semi-automatic handgun, are there identifying marks left on the cartridge? He says yes. He says when the projectile itself is fired out of the barrel, there are marks left on that. He says that he can determine what projectiles were fired from certain guns and compares what comes out of a gun and is able to fire test weapons. So he did do some test firing with Alex's gun and also had the casings, that were shed in the living room. And so he had those and he did fire the gun and verify that those shots did come from that gun. He says when he was first given the gun, he looked down the barrel of it. He said he wants to make sure there's no obstruction and is documenting if there are any, what he called power particles, traces of bullets, etc., anywhere inside of the gun. He said he test fired the gun into a water tank. He said he uses projectiles and the water tank allows him to collect it. He said he used similar ammunition that had the same type of jacket. He didn't have the exact same kind, but he said that what he had the same jacket, so it qualifies. He said the gun was fine. It functioned as it was designed. He fired it 3 times. He said they collect a minimum of 3 test shots, and that's all they need. So he said he was able to determine that the cartridge casings from the house fired from the handgun they collected, or from the handgun that Alex used. So essentially, yes, the gun that they got from Alex is the gun that killed Charles Vallow. I mean, that's essentially what they were trying to establish. He has lots of photos from all of his documentation from his testing. Then Lori cross-examines. She wants to know when he was requested to test the firearm. That was in March of 2025. Well, that was last month.
Just barely.
Yeah. She asks what detective he worked with. He said it was Duncan. She wanted to know how his reports are prepared and filed. He talks through his process, which we'd kind of already heard, but he went through that again. He said the report was 13 to 14 pages. She wanted to know about the water testing process. He said he fires into the water tank from about a foot away and that there's a big net that catches the cartridge casings. I wondered if the net was bamboo, but that was just me.
Yeah.
Uh, he said they shoot out of the gun and they get caught by the net. Lori wanted to know they don't land on the ground and roll close to each other. I wondered why she asked that.
Well, there was this whole thing with the other gun guy, the reconstruction guy, about where the bullet casings landed from the two shots. And they weren't very far apart. And she seemed to think that that meant that the shots were consecutive. And and he had said that doesn't not necessarily know.
Doesn't mean anything. Yeah. She also said, in your report, she was doing real sweet baby voice with him. In your report, I don't want to simplify it because I know you're a scientist. Does it basically say those casings came from this particular gun? And he basically says yes. But it was a weird sucking up moment.
It really was.
So then she wants to know. Oh, so then that's what she had. Then we have the state back, and she wants to know what side the casing's projected from. He says right and up. So she said when the casings are ejected and you're not attempting to move your arm or the gun, do they always end up in the same spot? He says no, they could bounce or roll.
Yeah. Somehow Lori really wants to make that into something that it just isn't.
Yeah, she's tried hard to. So then we had a juror question. The juror wanted to know where the casings would go if the gun was held sideways. He said it depends on which way it was held and how the casings hit the ground. So it's just hard to say, essentially, because the casings, it depends on if they, had any kind of resistance, if they ran into anything, if there was any, if you were turned in any, angle at all. There's just a lot of things. It's hard to say where the casings land or why. It doesn't seem to me that it's evidence of anything.
Right. It's not. The other gun guy said that one of them had a white substance that probably came from the wall because it hit the wall.
Right. Yeah.
But
it could hit the wall. It could hit you. It could hit anything else in the room. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
All those dancing mirrors. I don't know. Yeah.
Didn't hit those. They were still okay. Even though there'd been a big fight with a baseball bat in that room,
Yeah. Leah says bamboo, the new Kevlar.
Yes. Who knew? I bet the bamboo people didn't even know that.
Right? They're working up a new ad campaign right now.
Yeah.
So then we get our last witness of today, which is Cassandra Inklin from the Chandler Police Department. This is the detective who was on scene, who worked with Lori and Tylee, and who questioned both of them at the police department. A few weeks ago, we showed you guys the video of Tylee being questioned. It's not making it into evidence, as you know, because Lori does not get to benefit from the testimony and the words of a child that she murdered. The state was very clear on that, and the judge fully agreed. And also because it would be hearsay, because Tylee can't be crossed, due to the fact that she's not here. But this is that detective. So they talked a little bit about her CV, and she's really well accomplished. She'll have been there 24 years next week, she said. She was very flat, and some of you guys I know in the chat felt like she acted pretty disinterested in this case. I think she's just very careful and neutral.
Yeah.
About just trying to be sure that she answered all of the questions, but and had the answers. But she certainly isn't. She's not riled up. You might almost say she's nonchalant. I don't know.
I think you could say she was. Oh my God. Came up so many times. I loved it.
So she said on July 11th, she was on her way to a community event when she heard some police radio traffic about a shooting at a home. And then her supervisor called and asked her to head over there. So she got there, she said, between 9:28 and 9:30. She did not have a body cam. Detectives didn't wear body cams in 2019. They do now, apparently, in Maricopa, but they didn't then. So they arrived at the gated neighborhood. La-ti-da, Lori, per normal. She said there was already crime scene tape up, and several of the initial patrol officers were there. A CARE, which is their crisis unit, was also on scene. That's the van that we've heard about.
Mm-hmm.
So she said when she walked up to the house, Alex was seated on the curb. She said he appeared normal and was not agitated or upset. She said he had what looked like a paper towel or a Kleenex in his hand. At one point, he reached back and kind of touched the back of his head. She said when she arrived, they do a quick triage of the scene. So she asks what the roles of the detectives, the state asks what the roles of the detectives versus patrol officers are. She said patrol officers are the first responders, of course. They kind of do the initial investigation. They make sure everything is safe, make sure it's okay for first, like for EMTs to come in and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then when the detectives get called out, that's so that they can get search warrants or other specialized things needed to really start investigating what actually happened here. So she said once the detectives take over, the patrol gets released and they typically go take off, and now we have the detectives taking over. She said she noticed Lori and Tylee at one point arrived at the scene. She said she's not sure when, but she noticed that they were standing in the vicinity of the crime scene. I don't know if you know this, but they were parked across the street because there was nowhere to park. Because it's not a long road.
The things that matter not, but yet are still hilarious in these trials.
Yeah. So then, of course, she visits with Lori, and she says Lori just acted ordinary and nonchalant. There's that word. So then Crothheim, another detective on scene, came and visited with Inklin and the other detectives, let them know who Lori is. That's when she learned that Alex Cox was the shooter and that the deceased man inside the home was Charles Vallow. So she talked to her sergeant about doing the death notification to Lori. She didn't know. She believed that Lori wouldn't have known that her husband was dead because she wasn't there when Inklin got there. So she's already there. She knows that this man is dead, that these things happen. And then the wife shows up. So in her mind, I have to go talk to this lady and let her know that her husband is deceased. And also this child that's with her who she doesn't know, well, she's assuming that she's their daughter. So, she's trying to be delicate and polite, and let Lori know. So she walks over to the caravan. They've got him in the van at that point. So she tries to get Lori to get out of the van so that she can let her know, hey, I'm really sorry to tell you this, but your husband's dead, right? And Lori didn't want to get out of the van. And so she ends up getting in the van with her to let her know that her husband's dead. And she said she seemed pretty calm and not overly affected.
Well, she said, I already know.
Right. She said, I made contact with her and asked if she would step out of the van to talk to me. At that point, she said she already knew because she was there. At that point, I confirmed with her that he had died and was deceased. She and Tylee are now witnesses to the event and need to be interviewed. So yeah, she was totally surprised because this lady just showed up. So where the hell has she been? She was there. She didn't call 911. That's been verified multiple times. So, at this point, she's got to be wondering what the hell is going on.
Mm-hmm.
So she said Lori's demeanor didn't change when she told Inklin that she was there at the shooting and knew that her husband was dead. She said she wanted to talk to Lori and asked if she could take Lori and Tylee back to the station for an interview, and drove them back in the van. She said Lori was very chatty in the police vehicle. She said that you kind of got to be careful because you're not starting your interview in the van. It's, you really don't want to talk about the case while you're in the van. You need to get them to an actual room where they're being recorded and where you have that space to have that conversation. So she's basically, just making, she said it's kind of weird, awkward small talk because you're trying to avoid talking about the elephant in the room. But she said Lori basically chatted it up for the full 20 minutes while they were on their way. Tylee sat in the seat behind her. I will say Inklin said Tylee's name a lot of times. I felt like she kind of hammered on Tylee, 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 and I was really glad she did.
Yeah, she did.
She referred to her by name many, many, many times.
I do have a couple of videos of quite a few of the interviews.
Okay.
The sections of interviews.
Okay. So, yeah, we'll get to him in one sec. So she said she was not crying or emotional, acting totally normal. When they get there, they split them into 2 different rooms. So she said Lori had a phone with her in the interview, but wasn't on it and didn't do anything with it. So let's go ahead and watch some of the interview. I will say that Tylee, good Lord, Lori had an objection going. This felt like 404B from Idaho all over again.
Yes,
different objection, but basically she was objecting to the video not being played in its entirety, and she had a case law that she was quoting. And pretty much every time a new section of the video came up, she objected again. The judge was basically, by the end of it, he was down to just completely ignoring her. For a while, he just...
Same objection. Yeah, Rule 106. Okay, whatever.
Overruled. Again, some more. But anyway, let's take a look.
Yeah.
Attitude. And so he came this morning. I was getting JJ ready.
So he got in last night, but he wasn't at the house last night.
Yeah, I didn't hear from him, except for he texted me and said, I'll be there at 7:30 to pick up JJ.
Okay.
And I was like,
So, you understood that she had no.
Well, do you remember about what time he got there?
he said he'd be there 7:30, but it was more like 7:40-ish
Okay.
or 7:35, I don't know.
Okay.
But I remember looking at the clock, and he wasn't there at 7:30, and he's usually Mr.
Yeah.
On
Punctual.
time. Yes.
So, at this point, you understand that Lori Vallow knew Charles was coming to Arizona,
Correct.
and she knew he was going to show up on the 11th at 7:30 a.m.,
Correct.
and that he was coming there to pick up their son, JJ.
Yes.
Did the defendant talk to you about when Charles shows up, sort of how they get JJ in the car, and that she goes out to the car with Charles and JJ, and then that she ultimately ends up with Charles's cell phone?
That's right.
Anyway, so I got JJ's stuff ready. And he was like, well, and he's like this about timing. He's like, I'm leaving in 20 minutes because it's like 15 minutes to the school, and like you can't get there early. They don't open the gates until 8:20 or something like that. And I said, well, why don't you just go now? I don't want him in the house. I'm like, why don't you just go now and take him to Burger King because that's what he likes for breakfast. And he's very particular about food. Like, he wanted chicken fries for breakfast and the Sprite. Like, and I just get what he wants because if you don't know what he wants, then it's like on the floor screaming, dragging him in to school. Like, and he's big and he's heavy and it's hard for me to handle. But anyway, so I said just go, and so he said okay. So I gave him a backpack. He got in the car. This is his MO, right? He always leaves something in the house and comes back. He never leaves the first time. I always expect my husband to come back into the house, right? So I guess he had left his phone on the counter.
So he initially left with the backpack and with JJ?
And so he put them in the car, in the driveway, and then he came back in, right? So I kissed JJ goodbye. He came back in, and his phone was on the counter, and I had his phone. And he was like, giving me my phone, and I was like, why don't you show me your text that you've been texting, blah, 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 you know, whatever. Because he's like acting really weird, like he's plotting something against me. Like, I'm like, why are you even here? Like, what did you come here for? You know, he's been talking to my other brother, and my brother came into town at the same time last night, and I haven't talked to my brother in a while, my other brother, and I was like, And so he was texting him on the phone when he first got to my house, and I'm like, why are you texting Adam? Like, do you even talk to him? Like my other brother.
So in this portion, Lori Vallow told you that she kissed JJ goodbye and Charles took JJ and the backpack out to the car,
Correct.
and that she went inside and got a hold of Charles's cell phone.
Correct.
And did she tell you that Charles came back inside and saw her with the phone and told her to give it back to him?
That's right.
Did Lori Vallow ever tell you that she gave the phone back to Charles?
She did not.
So Lori Vallow is telling you that Charles is demanding the phone back, and she instead says, show me your text messages?
Correct.
So this morning he comes back in and.
He comes back in, I wouldn't give him his phone, he was screaming at me to give him his phone. He was very worried about whatever was on his text that he did not want me to see. And so I was just holding it there and he was screaming at me. And I was kind of walking towards around the house with it so he couldn't get it. He's like reaching for it and stuff like that.
So this is the second time that Lori Vallow is telling you that Charles is telling her to give him back his phone,
Correct.
and she is refusing to do so.
Yes.
And she advised that she was walking around the house, right?
Correct.
So he's screaming at her and she's walking around.
Correct.
During this initial confrontation over the phone, does Lori Vallow tell you it's just her and Charles?
Yes.
And so did you ever ask her why she didn't just give the phone back to Charles so he could take JJ to school?
I did not.
During your interview with Lori Vallow, did she tell you at some point that since she wouldn't give Charles back the phone and he's screaming at her, that her daughter Tylee and her brother Alex came out?
She did.
Did she tell you that her daughter Tylee came out with a bat?
She did.
Did she tell you that Tylee sort of poked at Charles with the bat
Yes.
while she and Charles were arguing?
Correct.
And did she tell you that Charles took the bat away from Tylee and Tylee sort of fell back or something?
Correct.
She ended up on the floor.
Correct.
And that Lori then told her to go outside to JJ.
Yes.
Did Lori Vallow ever tell you why her brother Alex Cox brought a loaded gun to her house?
She did not.
Did she tell you that she had asked Alex to come over to the house?
She did.
Did she ever tell you, well, let me say, so when she talked to you, she told you that she had wanted Alex to be there sort of to protect her in case anything went bad, right?
Correct.
So did she tell you why Alex didn't go to the door with her when Charles is pounding on the door being a jerk or whatever?
She did not.
So she didn't explain why the gun was there or why Alex wasn't part of this initial phone argument?
Correct.
Did Lori ever tell you during your interview that Charles started this argument?
No.
During your interview of Lori Vallow, was it always her saying that it was her that started this argument because she would not give Charles back his phone?
Correct.
So she told you that she was afraid of Charles coming over, invited her brother over to protect her, and then she started a fight by refusing to give Charles back his phone.
Correct.
During this interview, did Lori tell you that after Tylee went out to be with JJ, that Charles came at her with a bat?
Yes.
And that she moved into the kitchen and that while she was not able to see what was going on, she hears a shot?
That's correct.
Yeah, she was outside, and
what happened?
then they got up from that, and my brother had like stepped back, I guess, and then Charles was coming with me at the back, yelling at me to give him his phone still, because I had it in my hand. It was all really quickly, and then when we went around kind of in the circle, then my brother was there.
When you said when you were going around and he was coming at you with the bat, how was he holding the bat?
Just like that, like backwards, almost in one arm.
Like he was swinging it backwards? He would have done like
he would have swung it backwards at me, not frontward.
Okay.
So in this clip, she's describing to you how how Charles was swinging the bat at her, correct?
Correct.
And in that clip, does she, or let me ask you this, does she go on to talk to you about whether or not her husband was a semi-professional baseball player?
She did, yes.
And she told you that, again, Charles is holding a bat and yelling at her to give him his phone,
Correct.
and she didn't give him back the phone?
She did not.
Did she talk to you about whether or not she saw the shot?
Yes.
Did she say she saw it or not?
She did not see the shot. She heard the shot.
So she indicated she does not, did she indicate whether or not she saw her brother pull out a gun?
No.
Did she indicate whether or not she saw her brother go get a gun?
She did not.
Did she indicate how many shots she heard?
She specifically said the shot, as in one shot.
And what
Sorry. I think that's really, really important. We've heard that before, but that was a really important validation. Lori heard one shot. That means that Alex didn't just boom, boom, shoot him.
Right.
I wonder if she even knew about the second shot at this point. It makes me think she didn't.
That she didn't.
That she
I think
didn't
that
even know
that's
there
true.
was a second shot.
Mhm.
And that's
She had no
super
idea.
important in the self-defense story.
Yeah. And then after the one shot, when she knew he was down, she left.
She just gets in the car and leaves. Does she call 911? She sure does not.
Does she do
Okay.
CPR? Does she do anything to try to save her husband? No. She does zero
She just
things.
leaves. Yeah.
Yep.
And that's so I've got some more here.
Yeah, she was outside, and
what happened?
then they got up from that, and my brother had like stepped back, I guess, and then Charles was coming with me at the back, yelling at me to give him his phone still, because I had it in my hand. It was all really quickly, and then when I went around kind of in the circle, then my brother was there.
When you said when you were going around and he was coming at you with the bat, how was he holding the bat?
Just like that, like backwards, almost in one arm.
Like he was swinging it backwards? He would have done like
he would have swung it backwards at me, not frontward.
Okay.
I gotta get to the kids, and so I just went outside and to see if they were in there okay. I didn't want them coming back in the house when all that was going on, and got Gigi in the car, and he was trying to come in, and Tylee was like looking at me. I gotta get to the kids. And so I just went outside and to see if they were in there okay. I didn't want them coming back in the house when all that was going on. And got JJ in the car, and he was trying to come in, and Tylee was like looking at me with like the crazy eyes, like what just happened. And I told her to get in the car and we're gonna take JJ to school. And I just left.
When you came back in and you saw him on the ground, where was your brother? Did you see him where he was at?
Yeah, he was right in front of him.
Okay.
Like,
So in exhibit, what we have as 195, is that actually then the portion where she's talking about what she did after as well as what Alex was doing when she went back in there?
Correct.
So she advised you that after she heard this shot, she just left
She did. She went outside.
and then drove off in Charles's rental car?
Correct.
And she told you that when she saw Charles on the floor, Alex was standing in front of him.
Correct.
Did you ask her to describe any distance of how far away?
I did not.
Okay, yeah.
he was a professional baseball player.
Okay.
So it wasn't a good idea for Tylee to get out of the house.
Probably not the.
I mean, he played semi-pro.
Yeah.
I mean, it's, yeah. But, yeah, and then I was kind of turned around, and we were all right there in that room, except for the kids had been outside by that time, and I heard the gunshot. And
So you heard the shot?
mhm.
Did you actually see the shot, or did you just hear it?
I had gone around to the kitchen to get away from him, and so back around. So I don't know if he went in the house.
I didn't, so I'm at a little bit of a disadvantage.
Yeah, so I didn't see the shot. I heard it, and then I came back around and I saw that he was on the ground.
Okay.
Okay. So, again, that's the portion where she is advising you that she only heard the shot but didn't see the shot.
Correct.
So she's advising you she doesn't know what her brother was doing.
Reasonably, yes.
During this whole interview that you had with Lori Vallow, did she ever tell you that she handed over the phone to Charles?
She did not know.
So during the initial confrontation, when it's just her and Charles and he's demanding her phone, she won't give it back to him.
Correct.
When her daughter comes out and involves herself in this altercation, she wouldn't give him back the phone.
Correct.
And she advised that he's still at that point demanding his phone.
Yes.
And again, he's there to take JJ to school, right?
Right.
And then her brother comes out, and again, he's demanding the phone, and she still won't give it to him.
Correct.
Did she ever explain to you why she didn't just hand the phone back over?
She did not know.
I can have, and repeatedly, that she never gave the phone back to Charles Vallow.
That's right.
State will move to admit 286.
Same objection.
Same objection, Your Honor.
286 is admitted.
Did Lori Vallow ever call 911?
She did not.
Yeah, never mind. Do you know who called 911?
I believe Alex Cox called 911.
We've discussed that she had multiple cell phones, correct?
Correct.
And so did you later learn that she also had Charles Vallow's cell phone?
I did.
So she has at least 2 cell phones with her, but she did not call 911.
That's correct.
It's all nonsense.
Yeah.
What really happened? I would imagine most of this story is bullshit. We don't know. Unfortunately, The whole narrative is based off of what Lori says. Now,
Yeah.
Tylee's, her chain of events sounded a lot like Lori's, and so did Alex's. But
But that was coached.
that was coached. That was just what they came up with. I think, we've all spent a lot of time picking apart, well, what about this and what about that? And we're probably arguing with nonsense because it's all made up.
Right. I mean, the bottom line is she didn't call 911. She just left.
Yep.
Also, she was so scared of Charles that her brother had to defend her, except all she had to do was give him his fucking phone back and he would have left.
Yeah.
No, there is no way. Those two
Mhm.
things do not line up at all.
No.
If she was genuinely afraid, she would have just handed the phone back. But she wanted to antagonize him. She created a situation in which he would be there. And if that part even happened, but it just doesn't match with, like, one or the other is true, but they can't both be true.
No. And you watch her in that interview. Now, this is within 2 hours of his death. The way she's leaning forward, chatting, laughing, hands.
Yeah.
There is no part of her that seems to be upset or sad or scared. If she was so scared, how is it in this interview she's not showing that? Most people would be shaking. They would be
Right.
crying.
Yeah.
They would be traumatized. And Lori's just chatting it up. At one point in this interview, she says, I didn't even like Charles.
Yeah.
Why would you say that?
She says all kinds of shitty stuff about him.
Yeah. And Sue, a lot of people have that same question. Is she the one that took the second shot? We'll
Right,
never
there's
know.
a lot of question about that.
Yeah. So there's a break, and during the break, Juror 16 is brought in because Juror 16 broke the rules. The jurors are scaring the shit out of me.
Right.
There are not enough jurors. Luckily, this seems like it's not going to last as long as it initially looked like it would. But with the late juror this morning, that's so concerning. And then this one. So the judge asks the juror if during the testimony of the Social Security investigator, he started to talk with another juror about something to do with Social Security. And he said yes. The other juror told him he had a Social Security issue. He said this juror commented on the amount being high in relation to Lori. It is high. That's a ton of money she was getting from Social Security. A ton.
Well, Charles made a lot of money.
Yeah. He said that was the extent of the conversation. The judge reminds the juror he cannot talk about the case with other jurors until after closing, that he can remain. Yeah. Jurors, please get it together. You're scaring the crap
Knock
out of
this
me.
shit off, right?
Yeah, we do
We
not
gotta
need a
get through
mistrial.
this. No.
Mm-hmm. So they come back in from that, and then of course there's a lot more of the clips, the things that you guys have basically already seen. And we're really getting down to the end of the day, and to be honest, I really kind of thought that they'd end before we got to cross, but they didn't. One thing that did come up, while the state still had Inclin on the stand, was Charles's phone. That when they got back to the house, that she did ask for Charles's phone, or ask where Charles's phone is, because the officers did not find it. The detectives didn't find it when they did their search warrant, and Tylee pulled it out of the cup holder of the rental car and gave it to her, and told her that the code was 0000. She didn't use it to get into the phone. She just took it back to the station and gave it to their phones and computer people so that they could do their work with the phone. But all that time, Lori had Charles's phone. Now, she says it was in the cup holder the whole time, but we don't know that that's true. Nobody knows.
Yeah, she tried to testify to that and got in
Mhm.
trouble again.
Yeah. Yeah. What were they looking for in his phone? Right. Were they wanting to know what his conversation was like, what was going on with Lori's brother? Was this about the fact that Lori knew that he was moving on and starting to date? What was it in his phone that they were so hell-bent on getting a hold of?
Right. Well, and it is, there's so many failings on the police on this day. And I
Oh,
think the
so
number
many.
one is, why was it hours later before they were looking for that damn phone? They knew it was part of the original story that she
Mhm.
wouldn't give it to him. Why didn't they get it from her then?
Right.
Why did they wait till hours later? Like, it makes no sense.
Mhm.
They also did not
This
take her phone.
No.
At one point, she tells that officer, that detective, that he's been sending her threatening text messages, and she says, like what? And she can't even say what.
Right.
And they don't ask to see her phone. I want to see these
Right.
threatening text messages. Like,
Yeah.
what the hell, you guys? What?
This
They bungled this
investigation was so
terribly.
lackluster. Oh yeah, terrible. So Lori gets on to cross, and she starts talking, to Inclin. She's doing the typical, I'm going to try and make you look like you did things wrong, regardless of whether they're wrong or not. So one of the things she said, you talked about my demeanor being ordinary, which kind of made me laugh because I would imagine that Lori would bristle at being called ordinary in most
Yes,
settings.
the way she spit that word, she didn't like it.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Inclin says correct. Lori asks for a definition of nonchalant. She says detached, calm, doesn't really matter, not extraordinary. She asks her if she has a degree in psychology. Inclin says she does not. Lori says if she knows how a person should react in a stressful situation. Inclin said there isn't one way to act, but there is behavior that is striking.
Yeah, and she said, and she used that word in the way that Lori behaved, that it was striking.
Yes.
How
Yep.
nonchalant she was.
So Lori asks Inclin if she recalls being told that Tylee needed her medication that was in the house. She says she does know, but she couldn't let her go in the house because there was a search warrant still being enacted. So she couldn't let her go in the house. She claims that was Tylee's anti-anxiety medication that she needed.
Said panic medication.
Uh-huh.
It was so dramatic.
Yes, and the police would not let her have it. So
did Tylee look like she needed it? When we've seen, I know we haven't in this trial, but we have seen those videos. No,
she
didn't.
She was singing to herself. Just looked completely calm. Actually, yeah,
scarily calm.
So Lori asks if she would have been non-emotional if she was trying to be calm for her daughter. There's an objection to that's sustained. Lori asks if Inclin was being calm, and she said yes. And she asked if EMS was being calm, and she said likely yes. The police, everyone's being calm. And she said it was a pretty calm environment that day, right? And Inclin said she wouldn't agree with that. Lori says, well, no one was running around hysterical. Yeah, no one was, Lori. No one.
Which made it shocking.
Yeah.
And really stand out.
So then they have a little tiff about giving her the death notification. That, she's trying to explain to Lori, I was trying to give you a death notification without your daughter present because I didn't know that you already knew. I assumed that you didn't, and I wouldn't have given you that information in front of your daughter. Lori's trying to do this whole, trying to make it look like she was being untoward in some way, that she was, trying to get her out of the van. She was trying to do this, and she's like, dude, I was just trying to tell you that your husband's dead and not do it in front of your daughter. That's all I was trying to do. Then Lori kind of tries to insinuate that they didn't have a choice in going down to the station and answering some questions. And she repeats a couple of times, I asked you guys if you would get in the van and come down there with me, and you said that you would. Then when they get down to the police department, then Lori starts this whole thing about that she didn't give permission for her minor child to be interviewed. And the detective's like, well, she's like, in certain instances, we don't need permission, But she said, but I did ask Tylee, and she did agree to an interview. So again, Lori's kind of trying to insinuate that somebody did something wrong, because Lori is the ultimate victim. Right. Always.
Well, and Tylee was not a suspect. This was a witness interview, not a suspect interview or a direct victim either.
Yeah, exactly. She also has a big thing about the fact that Tylee was left alone in an interview room for something like 40 minutes. Bitch, you traveled all over the place. You left Tylee home alone. Tylee was living at Alex's house with a baseball bat under her bed, supposedly because she didn't feel safe at night. Don't talk to me about your daughter in a witness room for 45 minutes at the police station that somehow that was being really unsafe. Give me a break.
Yeah.
So gross.
It was.
So then, of course, they do talk. But see, this is where Lori just keeps talking about Tylee. Tylee. Trina, or the state keeps objecting because she's just getting on a razor's edge about what can be said.
Didn't Tylee say, you.
Yeah. What did Tylee say in her interview? Yeah, you don't get to ask that.
No.
So basically, they talk about all of, the things that we've already been over. Lori asks if she believes Tylee's demeanor was genuine that day. There's an objection to that that's sustained. Lori asks if she thought Tylee might be making something up. There's an objection. The prosecution, or the state sustains. The judge sustains. Then she asks Inklin if she learned during Lori's interview that Tylee had a bat. She says yes. Then they talk about the fact that they put them with the Family Advocacy Center people to, for like crime victims help. They get in the van. Lori said, or Inklin had said that Lori, again, was super chatty all the way back. And Lori did not like that she said that. Are you sure that that wasn't Alex and Tylee chatting? And she's like, no, it was you. She's like, are you sure I wasn't quietly watching out the window? And she's like, yeah, no, you were talking.
It was pretty great because she was like, no, it was you.
It was you.
You were the chatty one.
Mm-hmm. Which, again, why does that matter? But
yeah, it's always just more about her demeanor, that she was not sad. She was not grieving. She was not traumatized by this at all.
So then she points out when they get back that most of their vehicles they were unable to access because of the search warrant that was going on, and that's why they left in Charles's car. Interesting, because earlier in this case they said they left in Charles's car because the police told them to return it, and so they did.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that it matters anyway, but and again about them turning over the phone. Yeah. So that's where they end it for the day. There was one last objection. Lori refers to something to the detective, arguing with her, refers to something about the grand jury transcript. And of course, there's an objection to that, and that ends the day. So then the jury leaves, and then there's a few more things to clean up. So the judge again tells Lori she cannot phrase questions with "I understand" or other phrases like that. It's a form of testifying, and she just keeps doing it. And so he admonishes her again about that. He also tells her that he allowed the clips of the interrogation into the trial in small clip form because the rule that she keeps citing does not apply. And so she can keep objecting, but it just doesn't apply. Then Lori wants to talk about this flash drive that she was given last Friday from the state with the cell phone extractions. She's trying to act like this is brand new evidence. It is not. This is honestly the state trying to help her have what she needs because they've given her all of this stuff before, but she didn't like the way they gave it to her, and they gave her the report and she wanted all of the everything. This is for Lonnie Dworkin, who the judge has already said, barring something really extraordinary happening, it's too late. We can't let him in. You did this all too late. But she just keeps doing this stuff anyway. So he's like, all right, well, the state's playing along because everyone's trying to avoid having, a discovery issue or whatnot. But
right.
She says, right, she wanted the raw data. So they gave them a jump drive. Well, guess what? The investigator cannot open it. He has tried and tried and tried. He cannot figure out how to open it. So Lonnie Dworkin has been out of town, so they've been unable to open this, and now they're getting a little panicky because the state says they're going to rest on Thursday. And they're not ready for that expert witness that's probably not allowed to even testify anyway. So we're wasting all of this time on this. So what the deal is it sounds like it has to be opened. You have to have the Celebrite program on your computer in order to open these files.
Right.
Now, he says that he has the old Celebrite. He has 2 different kinds of Celebrites. Neither one of them will open this. The judge's inclination, I think, was pretty much that Lonnie Dworkin could probably open it, no problem. And he'll be back today. So they were like, well, he'll be back in town in 1 hour and 40 minutes. Then the judge even asked the state, is there a police officer that can help them with this or talk them through it? And she's like, I don't know who, this is you guys' job.
They go off the reports, not the raw data, for this very reason.
Yeah. So, the state says she's got multiple problems with the fact that this is even still being discussed because it's too late. And the judge is like, yeah, well, maybe they can use it for the next trial. And then he's like, maybe not. It's probably too late for that too. So we don't know what's going to happen with that, but that's where it ended for today. So
it was a lot.
It was a lot. It was an interesting day. So, of course, we'll be back with the detective back in the morning, still on cross. Lori wasn't done with her. So we'll have her on cross, and then we'll be back to a redirect, I'm sure. But that's where things stand right now.
And I mean, we have not seen a witness yet to testify about what was on Charles' phone.
Right. The digital stuff isn't even in yet, which kind of amazes me. That must be tomorrow because she's saying they will probably rest on Thursday. Whew. I know in the other Lori cases, the digital stuff took a long time.
Days.
But they must not be bringing as much in.
They probably aren't, but I would imagine some of the conversations, with Adam and, that kind of stuff, probably.
Yeah. Well, and we'll probably see more of the zombie stuff, light and dark stuff, those kinds of things. That's all still going to come in, I'm assuming. So I have questions for all of you. I mean, I wonder, how do you guys think the state's doing? Do you think that they're proving their case? Do you think that the conspiracy is clear? I'm curious. I'll be completely honest. I think it's kind of weak.
It's not as clear as I would like it to be, that's for sure. I'm really hoping that Prosecutor K can wrap it up in a really pretty package.
Mm-hmm. And I think Prosecutor K is doing a good job. She had some really good moments today, especially. But she's no Lindsay Blake. I'll give you that. Yep. Yeah. Also, though, she doesn't have the big team. It's just her and a paralegal. She doesn't have the big team that the Idaho team had at all. I agree. It's confusing at best for the jury, Lydia. I agree. Yeah, I think it's a little weak. Yes, Jamie, maybe it's the data from the phones that we need. Yep.
It's a good question.
Kaylin is now more famous on Twitter. She already was famous as hell on Twitter, if you don't know. But she called Lori Dumbbell, and Kay Woodcock liked it, so now she's a rock star.
Good job, Kaylin. Way to go.
Yeah, some of you guys as well. Right, Lori's making herself look like a complete asshole, but are they proving the conspiracy? Maybe there's just more to come. I hope that's true.
We have not seen evidence of the conspiracy, really. And so, I'm hoping that is coming because, what have they proven that there was a conspiracy? I'm not sure.
Yeah. In the grander scheme of things, Lori's going to prison forever. She's in prison forever.
Yeah, she is.
If they didn't get a conviction in this case, it wouldn't be the end of the world, except for that Charles deserves justice.
He does.
My God, these people. Charles worked and paid everybody's bills. That's what this man did. He worked and paid for everything and put up with a boatload of bullshit from Lori.
Yeah.
And the thanks he got was being murdered and having everyone stand around and chit-chat and have a pool party without a tear shed And the people who did love him and care about him get lied to and shuffled around and have, you know, his own children not even have the truth be told to them about his death.
Yeah.
He deserves some justice. I'm a little nervous that he's not going to get it. I hope I'm wrong. Really, really hope I'm
a
wrong.
little nervous too. I'm holding
I mean,
out for the next couple days.
The jury has got to be wondering what in the actual hell is going on here. Lots of little tendrils and tidbits being dropped about the kids in Idaho. And, you know, if you're paying attention, maybe you're wondering what's going on. But, because
I'm
truly.
sure they are. And there have been so many juror questions that have not made it to actually being asked. And you know those questions are about the kids. They're about Idaho. There's definitely questions there.
Yeah. Good points, though. Forever Wanderer says, maybe I know too much, but it seems obvious to me. The second bullet, leaving the scene, not calling 911, behind to hijack his life insurance, the Nephi comments, agree. Those are all big ones, right? But are they enough for a jury to go, yeah, she helped murder him for sure. She was a part of this. Yeah.
Well, and I really thought the prosecutor hit pretty hard today on after everything that happened and he's threatening her with a bat, she still doesn't give his phone back.
Yeah.
Was she really afraid of him? Did that story even really happen? Because you'd think you'd give up and go, fine, I don't want you to kill me. Here's the bat. Here's the phone, you know?
Right. Yeah. And then wouldn't you call the police? Wouldn't you call the police and say somebody's trying to assault me with a bat?
Yeah. She didn't call the police at all.
No.
Wild.
So again, have faith. I'm with you just because. Have faith. She's getting it done. I think the next 2 days have got to be key. I think the prosecutor's doing great. I think she is. The evidence so far, we need more.
We definitely need more.
Yeah. So we'll see what tomorrow brings. So we'll finish up with the detective and then it'll be, I'm assuming, the digital people that we see next, but we'll find out. Yep.
Absolutely.
All righty. Well, this was a long one, so we're going to go. Now, court's going to start a little bit earlier tomorrow. He wanted them to be there at 10:15. And, well, I guess it's not earlier. It's the same, but, well, no, I think he wanted them there at 10, the jury at 10:15. So they're going to start with a motions hearing at 10 in the morning, which is 11 our time, which is actually 11:30 with the delay. So it'll be 11:30 Mountain Daylight Time. So just the normal time. Same as today, essentially. So anyway, that's what's coming. So we'll be back tomorrow and we'll check it out. So thank you all so much for being here. This has been yet another production of the True Crime Squad.
Bye, everybody.
Season 6, we're back again. Kristi and Katie, your crime time friends. Stories, justice, laughs collide. True Crime Squad, come join the ride. Grab the clues, let's take a stand. For victims' voices, hand in hand. True Crime Squad, it's time to shine. Season 6, your turn, your time. True Crime Squad, where justice meets hilarity.